Hi, I'm Field Editor Kyle Bradley, and in this month's Online Extra, I'll be demonstrating some basic photo tips on how to turn your everyday snapshots into wall-worthy art.
First off, a basic breakdown of how a camera exposes an image.
At the top right of almost every camera is the shutter release button. When you press this button on a digital or film camera, it allows light to enter through the camera. In the old days, the shutter opened to expose film. Now, a digital sensor acts as an electronic piece of film to capture the scene before you. This is why it is very important to pay attention to what your shutter speed is set at. The shutter speed is the amount of time the camera stays open to expose the image. The longer the shutter speed, the more light can enter the sensor or film.
For sports and action photography, or just anything moving around, you want a fast shutter speed, one that can freeze that moment in time. So for your kid's next baseball game, try using the shutter priority mode of your camera to select a faster shutter speed. On the contrary, sometimes you need the shutter to remain open longer to expose an image. For instance, you often see nature images of creeks or rivers where the water is blurred and it gives it a softer effect. To get this effect, first place your camera on a tripod. Then slow your shutter speed to 1/5 of a second or slower. This prolongs the time the image is exposed, capturing all the light and motion in the scene.
Another time you need to worry about your shutter speed is in low light situations. Shooting at night can be tricky, but there are ways to get around from having blurry pictures.
For one, try using a flash. Use the built-in flash on your camera, or for those a little advanced, attach an external flash onto the hot shoe. Another way to deal with low light shooting is to crank up your ISO on your camera. The ISO on digital cameras is similar to that in film speed. Remember when you used to buy 100, 400, or 800 speed film for your different shooting situations? Well, the same still applies to digital. The higher the ISO, the more sensitive the sensor or film is to light, allowing you to use a faster shutter speed. But as the same with film, the higher the ISO on digital cameras, the more grainy the image is. Another way of getting properly exposed images in dark situations is related to the other main component of the camera, the aperture. The aperture is a hole or opening in which light travels through your lens to expose the image.
Whatever size hole your aperture is set at is called the f-stop. The lower the f-stop number, the larger the hole is. So an f-stop of 2.8 is actually a larger hole, letting in more light, whereas an f-stop of 22 is a smaller hole, letting in less light.
The aperture also pertains to your depth of field, or how much of the scene is in focus. Using an f-stop of 2.8 allows more light in the frame, but has a narrow depth of field, blurring out the background elements. This actually can be useful when shooting portraits. With only your subject in focus and the rest blurred out, it puts more emphasis on the person or animal you are snapping a picture of. To try this, you could switch your camera to Aperture priority mode and select the f-stop of your choice.
Now that we have some basic understandings of how a camera works, let's get to some shooting tips.
First off, when you arrive at a scene, take your time. Don't just snap one picture and move on. Patience is key to getting that right moment. Wait for that bird to fly into your scene, or for the light to hit just right on that far-off hill. Next, remember the rule of thirds. Use this compositional rule of thumb when exposing your image. Imagine a tic-tac-toe grid is placed over the image, and place the subject along these grid lines, or at their intersection. This makes the image more appealing to the eye and adds a more dramatic emphasis on the subject. Also, use a tripod. To get sharper images from any situation, mount your camera on a tripod. A wide variety of tripods are available for all different sizes of cameras and even cell phones.
Move around, go for the bird's eye view, or even get a little dirty by shooting near the ground. You will create so much more dynamic images by changing your perspective.
And lastly, shoot during the magic hours. The magic or golden hours include the first and last hours of the day and are the best times for creating dramatic lighting in your images. It also is the best time to capture wildlife, as most animals are active in the morning and the evening.
So hopefully the next time you're out on a hike, on vacation, or at your kid's soccer game, you could take images that'll look great hanging on your wall. Happy shooting!